Hello lovely people! For today's video, I figured we'd change up the scenery again because I'm just popping around my apartment at this point. And I figured we would talk about some of the lessons of chaos because the universe knows it's been a thing of 2020, hasn't it? And I think what's interesting is that when you think of a big encompassing word such as like chaos, prosperity, you know, these big almost like archetypal, they cover so much, right? Like it's not just one thing or another, it is definitely a multitude of things all wrapped into one. And sometimes I think we can look at a word or an idea such as chaos and put too much of a single layer on it, like we tint it all into the same category when really it is way more multifaceted than we kind of give it credit for. I think one of the wonderful things about 2020, again, I'm very silver lining it here, but you know, sometimes this is what we got to do, is the fact that there's many lessons that come along with it. So here are some of the few that I've gone through recently, and I have written them down here in my trusty book. So I think the first thing is the true understanding of how much actual control we have over our lives. I think this is something that we constantly try to do as humans, right? We always want to assert more control or dominance over a situation or an idea, a concept, our lives in general, then to the point where we're pretty much lying to ourselves. Like, chaos has to come in and remind us so often of the very things that we take for granted on the damn regular. All of these things are not guarantees. The world at large, I think, has done this to us all the time, right? We've gone from thinking that, of course, it's common knowledge that we get to spend time with our loved ones and see them on the regular, touching other human beings, breathing fresh air without some sort of mask in the way. Even fresh air in general with the friggin' fires and the smoke that came in. Like, there's so many things like that where constantly I think that they're guarantees, and the chaos comes in because it is that concept of nothing is controllable and everything is up for, basically could be turned and switched, and there is no order to anything. If there's no order, there's no expectations, there is no control, and it really does in a way put us in a very unsettling place. But I think also too, kind of remembering how powerless we are in so many circumstances takes a lot of the guilt off. I've noticed that I don't feel so bad now when something goes wrong or goes off or doesn't quite turn out how I expect it to, because I think when we have this illusion that we can control so much in our lives, ultimately, like, we then blame ourselves if anything goes wrong, right? If this doesn't go this way or other people make a choice, then it always comes down to, well, what did I do wrong? What did I do to not convince that person to make the right choice? What did I do to not prepare enough? Did I not give this enough time? Like, we always try to find the things that we can then control more, and we put more of our blame on ourselves. But when you really realize how very little we can control, it does take that guilt away, because you're like, well, even if I had done everything freaking right, how often is this still gonna go wrong, right? So I don't know, that a lack of control, true control over so many things, has allowed me to let go of guilt when things do end up going wrong. Two, what makes me very curious, the lesson of chaos, is the ripples of our actions. I don't know, very recently I've been very fascinated with the concept of the butterfly effect, and how it is less about one person, one little instance being like the cause and the thing of everything. Instead, it's the idea of like rain falling into a pool of water. It's not a ripple that then ripples out to everything else and touches everything. One single ripple will go through the entire pond, but it's multitudes of ripples. It's boom, 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 boom. There are such a variety of things. And so it really makes me curious to think of like, oh yeah, it's not just one thing. It is so much more complex than that. Our world isn't based in such a linear creation of events. I don't know, sometimes I feel like chaos, we oversimplify it, right? We sit there and go, oh, well, it's because, you know, we find the reason, right? We're trying to like, okay, chaos, all this is happening, this is all toppled over because one person put one wrench into the gears. This is the cause of this dysfunction, this disorder. And if we can find the cause of it, then it'll go throughout. When actuality, many times, our world is way more connected than that, and it's every individual little action that we do. There are so many reasons for disturbances, which I think 2020 has definitely shown us, right? It has not just been one thing going wrong, it is so many things. And I mentioned this in the previous video about there's a certain quote that really makes me happy about someone who said it's not things happening one right after the other. That person, whoever said that, lied, that the damn things are overlapping. And oh, that is a 2020 feeling. Like, yeah, no, the shit is overlapping, the chaos is overlapping, and it's all interweaving and twining with each other, and it's all causing more and more problems. And I think knowing the complexity of that is a helpful lesson, because going on to, I guess, lesson number 3, in a sense, chaos is complex, and because of its complexities, then sometimes trying to oversimplify it and find the one reason for the things happening so you can get back to order isn't actually a productive use of your time, isn't helpful for you, for anyone. Sometimes you don't need to find the heart of the problem to eventually get to the solution, or to eventually move on with your life. This concept of finding the one thing, the one little bit that's off, because it's probably not just one thing. Yes, it's good to find sometimes the root of your problem so you don't routinely put a band-aid over an issue, right? But so much sometimes about chaos is that sometimes the problem is unknown. Sometimes there's so many little problems all rippling into each other, causing this disturbance onto the pond. You know, you can put a boat or a cup under the sky to catch that one drop of water, to stop that one ripple from happening. But it's fucking raining. Like, there's a shit ton more drops. How many, are you gonna put a damn tarp over the whole pond? Like, maybe the whole point of it is not to find the one issue, is to see how the ripples all interact and just sit in the rain for a bit and recognize how really truly connected all of this stuff is. And then continuing on even more into point 3, the why of problems is not always a good thing, because I think it applies logic to a situation that doesn't necessarily have any logic. We like to, again, find an answer, simplify, find the thing that is the reason for why all this stuff is going wrong. And overanalyzing and overthinking a thing, again, I think goes down to, well, if I can understand it, if I can find the reason, I can then control it, or at least find a way to mitigate and find some more control in a situation that is inherently chaotic. Sometimes there is no why, and in your constant struggle to find a why, or to put a why on something that has no why, is just, it doesn't help, right? You're focusing too much on the past and what has happened before, as opposed to just accepting what is in front of you. You know, it's a weird denial in a sense of like, well, maybe this just happens. Maybe there isn't, you don't need to find the why. It's just, the matter of the fact is, this is what's happening in our world right now. Now, how do I deal with it? How do I move forward? The focus on the why of it focuses too much on, I think, in a weird way, trying to find a preventative thing from it happening again. And maybe it's something that you can't, again, it's beyond our control. We can't control things from happening always 100% of the time. I think in that way, it has helped for me to focus on moving forward and recognizing the possibilities, which goes into lesson number 4. True chaos. I think we look at it so many times within a negative lens, right? It is, order is good, chaos is bad. When things are chaotic, it means there's something wrong, and that the maybe it needs to be torn down, like a tower card energy. Maybe it needs to be faced and understood. Again, that concept of things just completely falling apart, and we need to put them back together again. We need to find a new, better, stable way of building things. And I think we sometimes always look at it so negatively, while also forgetting that it's through all the chaos and the tearing down and the utter unknown and darkness of it all that we find also the positive possibilities. I think of it in a lot of ways like a blank sheet of paper, and that whole artistic thing, how like the scariest thing to an artist, to a writer, is a blank sheet of paper without any sort of construct of which for us to create and to write. Then we go to the vastness of it, right? And we feel frozen in the idea that we could choose any possibility. But also I think there's a wondrousness in that, right? When chaos comes in, a truly chaotic world means that all of these horrible things are possible and all of these good things are possible. And remembering that we want to have control and structure so we can handle the bad times and maybe prevent the bad times, we can't do that, right? Like, it's not something that is guaranteed. We don't have control over a lot of the bad things that happen to us. There are multiple ripples happening in the pond, and we can't catch or prevent them all. But that also means we cannot stop or prevent or catch or intervene in all the good things that can happen to us either. It makes me think a lot of how often I do magic or something pops up, and then if I make sure there's room for it, the universe will then actually present me with something that's even better than I imagined. It's just a little bit more, has a little more oomph. It's just that much better of a fit, and it was within the chaos and the unknown and the blank sheet of paper of possibilities that sometimes we stumble upon something that is so good that we couldn't even think to imagine, because plans lead to planned possibilities. And again, it's an admittance that we don't know everything. We can't possibly control and know and logic our way through everything. And in a lot of ways, that gives me actually a good amount of comfort. That doesn't just mean with the bad, that also means with the good. That means that all of those things that you think are so beyond your reach, those things that you logic yourself out of expecting to possibly happen to you, because, well, logic dictates that you're not good enough, you haven't done enough work yet. There's no physical way within our world for your life to become that prosperous. And it's like, well, but logic doesn't dictate our world sometimes. Sometimes it's just one gigantic ass chaotic mess, and in that chaos comes a shit ton of bad, but also a shit ton of good. All this unexpected good things can also happen, and many times from the most unlikely of sources. So that is just some of the random ass lessons and me talking through so many ways I'm trying to find, I guess, when the bad times happen, when the chaos happens, I guess learn as best as you can and move through as best as we can. And I guess overall, if chaos isn't a pit, it's a ladder, I don't think so much of that if we're going to the Game of Thrones quotes. I think it's a wheel. I think that Wheel of Fortune is always spinning. We can't stop it, we can't control it. It's gonna go as fast or as slow as however else it wants to go. And with it comes the good and the bad. I'm just expecting all the possibilities. So anyway, this is part of Utober. More mass filming coming, so you will have videos all the time, at least for this month. And I'll see you guys in the next one.